Hello, everyone. Kyra Schaefer here, back with Susan Ray, who is going to answer questions with me that have come from either Dear Abby or Dear Ann or Dear Prudence or,
Dear
go search it. You'll find it. You'll find their answers, to how they answered these questions. But we're going to answer them from a lot of different perspectives, whether it's spiritual or worldly or, just practical or whatever kind of comes in for us in the moment. So are you ready to hang with me, Susan?
Ready. I'm so excited. It's awesome. We got to weigh in. They might have been answered already, but we have an opinion.
We have an opinion.
We have an opinion. I love it. We
have something to say. Well, because I think that sometimes for some of those, there's a fuzzy. Some of those advice columns, they're really good answers. They're really good answers. Yeah. Sometimes they come from one perspective of practicality, and I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. Yeah. But yeah, so let's dig in.
Go. I love it.
All right. My husband had an affair 8 years ago, but it still feels like I found out yesterday. What do I do? And for the context for this one, they've been to couples counseling. They've done their thing. They've gone through the whole rigmarole, the process of, the shifting and the changing. They are together. And she's just triggered, so something happens and it just comes flooding back. And and so she doesn't quite know what to do because it feels bad to her, even though there's nothing really wrong in the relationship.
Right. Yeah.
Opening thoughts.
Wow. First, I want to say, as a woman thriving after significant infidelity, it's not your fault. I don't care if you never had sex with him. I don't care if you got really fat. I don't care if you are a raging bitch. Our partners have an opportunity to come and say, this isn't working, and so I'll be over there with that person before they lie and are unfaithful. So I always, whenever any of my clients are going through this, I just feel so important to bring it back, because if we feel guilty, as you said when we talked last time, we naturally project that into the world. So naturally, then that's going to put that back on him and be upset with him because she's carrying the blame that doesn't belong to her.
Yeah.
I have another thought, but I'd rather have you jump in first because my thought is pretty in your face. My second thought is very aggressive.
Ooh, I like an in your face thought. So, so for me, it's well, there's a lot there because she is the one who's holding this placeholder for trauma, right? So this was obviously a traumatic experience for her. And even though they've kind of worked things out together, I'm curious to find if she has taken that and actually healed it within herself, to say, yeah, I don't need to continue the vibration that I'm holding about him. It's forgiven. Well, is it? Because it's still coming up. And what is it really saying? What is it about? Is it abandonment? Is it fear of abandonment? Is it it'll happen again? Like, what is it specifically that's being held in there? So that was the kind of questions I would ask her, even though we don't really have that context or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, because I'm like, I'm the radical responsibility girl to a fault. I'm like, it's in you. You haven't healed this piece yet. And so it's coming up continually to find out what that core wound is. Yeah.
And I think to your point, and you and I talked about this before about a different situation where it's usually further back than that, right? If we can't put it down with the person we're with, then there's something further back to be healed that feels similar, right? So any more work on any past trauma or childhood trauma or that kind of stuff would probably be helpful for her. Another thing that, and this literally happened to me, two things. My then husband said, I cannot pull up the guilt and shame every time you need me to. Because when it came up for me, I know, I should pause there, right? Because that was powerful. I cannot pull up the guilt and shame every time you need me to. Because when it came up for me, I would be sure to tell him, right? And I would expect him to act accordingly. And he's like, Susan, I can't anymore. And then my sister said, you decided to stay. You're in or you're out, Susie. Calls me, Susie, you're in or you're out. You decided to stay, so put it down. Like, this is not even your business anymore. That's not today, right? You're different. And that, I was so mad when he said
God,
that.
yeah, I would be mad too.
I was like, yeah, I decided to stay because it's the right thing, but I want him to be punished, you know?
Oh yeah. See, there might that be that punishment thread. And where do we want to punish, but we never got to, or where do we want to get love where we never got to? And where did we want to rescue where we never got to?
And be
our
picked.
Parents usually. Yeah.
Right. And be chosen. I don't feel like the favorite, which I believe I should in my romantic relationship. So how can I get that? And maybe that's another thing this person can do now. So in the practical side, right? Like, we shut the door on the thought, I close and lock the door. So anytime that comes in, now I have something else I automatically go to, like, I'm so grateful that the sun is out, or, oh my gosh, I love my husband so much, or anything. I don't care. Start, my favorite, count backwards by sevens from 100 with the alphabet.
Oh God. I would make it to,
I'm saying,
what,
right?
93? Like, that's it. That's it. That's all I got.
Spin you up. Anything you're spinning on, this will spin you another direction. It's fun. But so first we shut and lock the door, and then start seeing what we want, right? So all the places he is attentive, all the places your partner is choosing you. I mean, you went to therapy. It sounds like they did counseling. You said a lot of men won't do that, right? So all the ways you matter to him, I'd be grabbing that as well. So you can generate more of that, more appreciation and connection.
Yeah. And from a hypnosis standpoint, or a kind of thought changing Ericksonian standpoint, it would be counteracting the negative thought. So similar to what you're saying, but another action is saying, oh wow, I'm feeling feelings about this thing, and I don't really like these feelings, but I do know that there are better feelings in there for me, and I wonder when I'm going to start feeling better about this old thing that's happened once upon a time, like putting it verbally in the past, either mentally or that kind of thing. And damn it, go get some love. Like go talk to somebody who loves you and who is just, I mean, we don't get love from a relationship. We don't get love from a relationship. We bring love to it. And so it's like, you have some massive expectations, and guess what? He will never, ever, ever feel loved by you if you have any of those expectations. Now, he did something wrong. You accepted his apology. What's left over? And that's the healing you got to take on yourself, in my opinion. I mean, I would,
And for some people, this wrong thing, right, is a cry for healing. We know it's either love or a cry for love, cry for healing. And so, like, I have a couple that's a client that their relationship is light years better. Like, this was the best thing that ever happened to them, because they have raw and real and choose each other again. And they're best friends. And I mean, they're just, and it's been
like have a short memory, have a short memory. People make mistakes.
And a long memory for the good shit.
Right? That's right. And I know that it's easier said than done. And I know that this stuff is hard when you're getting triggered in the moment. It feels very much outside of your control. I'm going to take those deep breaths, longer exhales. Just start with that too, because that's going to shift the brain chemistry a bit to pull you out of that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn type of deal. So that'll help too, is just doing some things that that help to recalibrate you. Shutting the door, bringing a new perspective in, thinking in ways that are more general, and then taking some good deep breaths and rebalancing your brain chemistry, because it's not able to get to the upper echelons of thinking. It can't get to the contextual memory of things. It can't get to the relational understanding of things because it's stuck in the amygdala. So, yeah,
Smart.
Those are good thoughts. Those are good
Yeah, I
ideas.
love that.
Good.
Lots of
Sorry,
love.
I wanted to recap that.
Lots of love, man. Just seriously.
It's
So
not easy. It's not lost on us how not easy that is. So it feels like a betrayal regardless. So it's finding that balance. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah. Okay. This is a good one. My wife's, and these aren't all relationship ones, but what I've noticed is that there are a lot of relationship questions on these advice columns, which is
Sure.
my wife says that I'm the worst when it comes to hurting her feelings. So some context there is that my dog is weirdly barking randomly at nothing.
Oh, just in case, I'm here. I'm on the show.
I know he's just going, whoa, whoa. Like, what are you looking at? What is going on?
Say about that?
So anyway, so the context there is that I'm sorry, Jackie, come. It's distracting.
I get it. Bring them on. Bring them on the
show. So anyway, the context is that they'll go for months at a time. And this is his perspective. So they'll go months at a time, and then he'll say stupid words that will hurt her feelings, and it'll take her out for a day or two. And then he's like, how do I make her less sensitive? How do I, change her so that she can just be okay with what I'm saying to her? Oh God, I loved it. I was like, ooh.
There's some juice in there, girl.
Some juicy goodness. Now, he's not wrong. That I think is a very common thing that guys other women we may think, like if you're with a person who has a sensitivity in this world, but then I'm curious of what he's saying, which wasn't included.
Right.
We
just want to know, how bad was it? You said it was stupid. Yeah. How stupid were they? That's what we want to know.
Yeah. I'm like, are you cutting her to the bone? Right. Like kids can do, right? Like kids will be like, I'm gonna murder your whole family. Like they have no, and you stepped on their foot and they're like, I will kill everyone. It's like, whoa, kid. What's going on?
What's so funny when you said kids can be so cruel, what I got, because this is what I got. Fatty 2x4 can't fit through the bathroom door, right? And you
oh my God, yeah, mean.
Funny. It's just funny that I was like, yeah,
it just came in, it just popped in.
It doesn't matter what it is we get sensitive to.
Yeah. What do we get? I love that Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs where the girl is just so upset because she's wearing glasses and he's like what they said to her was four eyes, you need glasses to see. Because the other character goes,
she was devastated, poor thing. It doesn't matter though.
It doesn't matter. It hurts. It doesn't matter. Her whole life to go on a different trajectory because of that little thing. Yeah. What we would perceive as a little thing.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. It doesn't matter what we think of his words, they're hitting her hard.
They are. I'm very giggly. I've been so giggly for the last
love it
3 days.
Girl, bring it.
So anyway,
so what's the guy to do?
And I went ahead and read a little bit because I wanted to see what Abby or Anne was going to say, and she was like, yeah, you need to look at yourself, bro.
That's
so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right? Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny where I went, and this is a validation. We all see everything through our own filter, right? Because where I went was, if she said, you're so bad at hurting my feelings, right? Is that what it was? You're so bad at my feelings. Well, that's her. That's her issue. She needs to change it. So I don't disagree with him. Mm-hmm. Because he loves her, he may be willing to modify a little bit too. But I had that one day I was sitting hand on my hip to my partner, not my best moment. I feel so criticized by you. And then I was like, oh, literally in the moment. Criticizing you now. Like, for only everything we see, we have, right? So when she's like, you're so bad at hurting my feelings, there's something in there for her about where she's hurt someone's feelings and not forgiven herself, or I don't know, but
yeah, for sure.
but I feel like there's an opportunity for her. So if we go with her first, since the other columnist didn't, if we go with her first, there's an opportunity for her to look at, what do I make it mean when he says that? Even if he said, batty fatty, 2x4, can't get through the door. She has an opportunity to think about, what do I make it mean that he thinks I'm fat? What do I make it mean? Right. And then she'll be able to drill down all the way. Well, he's not attracted to me. He's going to leave me. I'll be alone and I'll die. I mean, that's where it would go for me. I don't know about her, but right. And then, oh, wait, is that really true that because he said this thing, it's linked to my very life, right? That primitive amygdala part of the brain, to your point before. So I feel like there may be some room for her to do some healing that gets her out of these days long reactions.
Cycles.
Yeah.
And I will, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and since he asked the question, he's the one to be talking to, because she's not in it, right? She's not like, how can I stop being so hurt by this? That wasn't the question we pulled, right?
Right. Yeah, that's so key. And also too, we gotta take another piece into consideration. If he is a narcissist, then he knows exactly how to hurt her. And if we take it to the extreme, like he knows exactly how to hurt her, and he will never see his responsibility in it. Right. Because it's very, very hard for a narcissist to do that. And narcissists come by narcissism in a variety of ways. Sometimes it has to do with childhood trauma, because children are very all about themselves, right? And then if somebody never grows out of that, that's when we have those elements of narcissism. So if he's like, she needs to change to stop being so sensitive. I mean, how many times do we hear of narcissists saying those specific words?
True.
You're too sensitive. You're too this. You're too that. So it could actually be a very detrimentally abusive situation that he's only looking through his innocence about, so it's like, that's kind of interesting too. And maybe that's what this particular person was picking up on and saying, from the counselor's perspective of going, well, I'm seeing it through this lens because I'm in a narcissistic relationship, it's like finding where that is too.
How abusive it can be. Right.
Yeah. We don't know. Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, he said every couple months, right? So ultimately, people in a relationship get to decide if the value exchange, not the trade, the value exchange is working.
Right.
If you feel unloved by him only every few months, are you feeling loved enough the rest of the time that you want to stay? Apparently so far, because you're there.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I mean, because we don't have all the facts. We don't really know exactly what's going on. So we can't, we're making a few generalizations. But ultimately, just like you're saying, if you don't feel loved in a relationship, is it something that counseling can help? Or is it something to go, you know what, I'm kind of done. I want to be treated better in my life and my experience, and that my sovereignty, my happiness, my joy, that's my priority. And as a result of me saying yes to myself, the good things come into my experience, So,
yeah. And there's that evaluation period, right? For me, and you've heard me talk about this many times, you've coached me through it, where it's like, okay, I'm going to spend this time trying to just love that person and not need anything and see if I can stay full and happy. And then a year later, when I still can't stay full and happy, then I know I got, it's like, pull the ripcord, girl. Choose yourself. So.
Do that. All right. So I guess another thing to say there would be, go get loved. Both of you, go get love.
Love is always the answer, man.
It is. It is.
Whatever that looks like, right? a church where you feel supported, or a yoga class, or a Facebook group, or meditation, or nature, or prayer, or like a coach, counselor.
Yeah. Finding that path, get full. It's because if she's reacting to something that he's saying, but it's very benign and not intended, there's no energetic intention behind it, then that's another question too, to be like, well, is this really something that is happening? Is this absolutely true? Right.
Right. Fact checking. Yeah.
All right. Roommate wonders how to deal with women's serious health issue. And it is, so it's a diabetic, and they are roommates, and this diabetic has, roommate has, had several seizures. They are not, going to get a checkup to get their blood sugar fixed. It's like the blood sugar is dropping in the evenings, and this is when this usually happens. And the roommate is tuned in and noticing how the roommate just starts to go down into kind of that diabetic low blood sugar reaction. And he's had to call the hospital, the ambulance before, and he's really made himself responsible for that. But she is not listening to anything that he suggests or is willing to do what even the doctors recommend. So the columnist said, well, I'll talk to a doctor about it. She talked to a doctor about it. The doctors then said, hey, they need to do XYZ, right? In this situation, the patient does, the diabetic person needs to do XYZ. And I'm like, that didn't really, to me, answer the problem that the questioner was asking, because the questioner is freaked out and is worried about their friend and can't do anything to make that friend make a different choice because they're in it. So what choices would this person have, knowing that they don't intend on necessarily leaving the situation?
Yeah. Well, my first priority in my mind was to support the questioner in being innocent, no matter what he chooses. So whether you did choose to leave, whether you did choose to do nothing, to not even call 911, whether you chose to be in your room with your door closed and not know, whether you choose to pump juice into her mouth when she starts to cry. I mean, every choice is lovable. We'll trust it all. And then staying up here to be like, since I'm not able to in the world change this, where can I see gifts? Or how can I trust whatever God, as you understand, has it, right? Because I feel like that grind we get into about saving someone who doesn't want to save themselves, right, is us taking on a God-sized job, and it's just too big.
True that.
So I'd be doing all the mindset stuff first, all of that, and then likely I would support that person in a conversation with the roommate about how much they love and care about her. And maybe they've already done it, right?
They have. Yeah.
Okay. So sort of that last stance for love. And going forward, here's how I'll be handling it. And the reason I always encourage people to do that is like, you speak into existence your plan that you've gotten guidance, right, from people you trust and from source is going to be your plan. And you communicate it, because that will help you follow through with it, because you told them that this is how it's going to go, right?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, I love that, because it's not being in the moment of it or in the fear of it or kind of giving the unsolicited advice piece. The other thing too is I wonder if this person put this advice, this question out there in order to go, see, they say, so I'll have evidence and I'll have backing and I'll have, because whatever I say isn't obviously enough because they're not making the change. So maybe if they hear it from enough places, but
Yeah.
that's just trying to prove ourselves right, you know. And
Well,
and
or
it's
shifts the situation. Maybe he doesn't care to
yeah,
be right, just wants her to get better. And it's not our choice if she gets better. It's her.
that's right. Yeah. We're not responsible for that. We are responsible for how we feel though. And if he's feeling this kind of way, I'm curious where that showed up first. You know, where did you go when we go back? You know, did you have a parent that passed away, abandoned you, was ill? And all of this is just bringing up and churning up this old experience. It could even be a classmate or a friend or something like that that didn't take these kind of, you know, precautions, and they left their life because it's like an abandonment thing.
Right, right. Or even just that, here, I think you hit the nail on the head here too, as far as support for the questioner to get to the other side is, who were you responsible for? Right? Who did you literally feel their life depended on you?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what you recreated.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah.
I thought of that with the very first question with the lady where she keeps remembering the affair. It's like, what am I getting out of it? What's the hidden benefit? Because we're not doing anything that we're not getting some. Like, we only thought we lost our egoism and fear, our selfishness and self-centeredness, right? It's still in there. So
bouncing around.
Right? I'd be asking him, what are you getting out of it? What are you getting out of having a sick roommate who's non-compliant? Sorry, not sorry. Right?
Oh, damn. It's so, and I know we can talk about this now, but if we were in session with somebody, that would be a gentle movement towards, but really that's really just truth. It's wisdomizing the issue, because there's no way that there's not something in it for us if we're continuing to stay in it, even if it's just being a victim about it ourselves and going, see, look what all I have to do. I never know when she's going to die. You know?
Exactly.
And there's something in there too.
That's it.
I want attention. But really, what do I want when I say I want attention? I want love. I'm desperate for it. And I've been just chewing on this cotton candy, imitation love, and not getting any of the real stuff because she's not doing what I'm asking her to do.
That's right.
Because
exactly.
I'm afraid for her. And if I can be, how afraid, like Abraham, like how afraid can I be? I can't be afraid enough for someone to make them well. I can't be sick enough for someone to make them well. I can't be impoverished enough to make someone else release their poverty, consciousness, whatever it might be. It's like, it's like, what parts of this are you taking on yourself? And then how much will that affect your mood, your stress, your fear body and pain body, your stuff that gets activated in us that can cause illness and physical pain and discomfort.
Right.
Like
before
caregivers and caregivers do sometimes get sick as a result of caring for another person because they wear it themselves to the bone, even if it's just constant worry. So my heart goes out to both of these people. There's something going on with her that's making her not want to take the next steps in her health and wellness. There's something going on in him that's making him committed to his need for her to make a change. And what an interesting dynamic, right?
Totally.
That is a beautiful cyclical kind of thing, isn't it?
And clearly he cares about this person, right? He loves her, he cares about her, he wants for her wellness. So yay for that too, that he's extending himself. And sometimes we have to pick, where do we stop extending? Where do I stop and you start, kind of thing, right? That enmeshment we have to watch for. Which
we can't want it more for them than they want for themselves. Yeah,
it's just like coaching, right? It's like, how many times will we be very attached to a transformation for someone that they're not ready for, or they don't want yet, or they don't value? And then we get to trust that, like, oh, I can see I was attached to that. Let me just trust you to live your soul's journey, and I'll just be right here holding light, right?
That
Love.
space. Yeah. And I love that you brought in the God-sized problem, not a Kyra-sized problem. That was very helpful when I was dealing with burnout from my practice during my healing time. Was how much have I been taking on the responsibility for another person that wasn't willing to take that on themselves. And listen, it doesn't matter whether you're a coach, whether you're a psychologist, psychiatrist, any social worker,
sister, mother, brother, friend.
You're right. It doesn't matter if you
across the board. Yeah.
There will, I mean, specifically in the mental health, because people can think maybe that, a psychologist or psychiatrist has had the training to help them manage how they feel in an interaction where you're listening to the deepest, darkest shit that anyone has ever gone through, ever. And they think, oh, well, that's okay. They'll never go through burnout. Oh, yes, they do. There is like a lifespan for the average psychotherapist, psychologist, which is about 3 years.
Wow.
So it's the same thing with a coach and hypnotherapist and that kind of thing too, if you're not able to manage your energy. But also too, what's interesting is that what I found, at least in my practice, is that I would get a lot of people that already went the allopathic route, that went through psychotherapy and psychology and did all of the group work and all that kind of stuff. And they still never got to that place that they needed to get to. They're still miserable, still unhappy. And I've been the last stop on the train. And it's like, I would get this entire data dump of 10 years of therapy that they've been through that never shifted it for them. I'm not saying, by the way, caveat, I'm not saying that it happens for everyone, but I'm saying that does happen a lot. So if you're a coach or a hypnotherapist or somebody that's in the mental helping field that is not necessarily a regulated field, please know that burnout is consistent throughout the board, and take care of yourself. I just wanted to mention that because I think that gets overlooked a bit.
I agree wholeheartedly. Put yourself first.
Oh yeah. I definitely made that mistake multiple times, many times. It's because we love so hard, Susan, right?
No, we do. It's hard to turn that phone off.
It is. All right, so this is a bit of a long one because it's kind of has the context in it.
Okay.
I recently moved away from my home state and across the country. In a text to my mother, I suggest she come to visit me and stay at my place. A few days later, in a family group text, my father mentioned he is looking forward to visiting. While I am polite to my father for my mother's sake, I do not want him visiting me or staying in my house. The invitation was strictly for her. How can I tell my mother this without upsetting them? I would really like for her to visit, but I'm simply not comfortable with seeing my father.
The truth is always enough. That's where I would start. The truth is always enough. Mom, I was so looking forward to time alone with you, and I would never want to hurt your feelings or come across as disrespectful to Dad. And I'm really only open to you. What do you think?
Yeah. That is the most well-worded statement I've ever heard. By the way, guys, like when I have an issue, I go to Susan Ray for my words because I can't get judgment out of the things that I say. If you haven't noticed.
You're so funny.
Oh, you need to do this.
Right. Why the hell? What are you thinking? That's what I want to say. And then we just translate that to
we just translate that into better.
Well, how do you arrive at that decision, right?
Yeah. But I like when you say something like, when you say, I can tell that I'm feeling. I like when you start me off that way. I can tell that I'm feeling this about what you did. No.
Right? Yeah. About your assholeness.
I can tell you I could feel a certain way.
Right.
But it's to me, it's like, when it comes to family stuff, I have a very different dynamic than a lot of people do. I lost my father when he was murdered. Always laugh at that. I don't know why.
Yes, but I didn't lose him. He was murdered.
He's gone. And my family is incredibly small. Like when we did the wedding pictures from Tad's Catholic family, she had to take the picture like this. And then then mine was like this, and it was needed to be cropped. So I don't got much going on in that department. So therefore, luckily, I don't have a whole lot on it. And then I was also not raised to really depend on family,
Right.
you know, so as being like a source or,
Yeah.
or a place where I can feel safe.
Yeah.
Just never had that. It just, and I'm like, wow, it's so wild when people have those things. It's so cool. But then I see the codependency and the stuff in it and I'm like, oh God, I'm so glad I don't have to do any of that. I got to depend solely mainly on myself, but yeah, it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, I love that she's like being really honest with herself instead of going, okay, dad can come.
Right. Right.
When you don't know what trauma is going to get triggered.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think a direct conversation, and if this person is open to some compromise, you know, there could be some compromise. Oh, you want to travel with dad? Great. You guys can get a place nearby, and then mom, you and I can do XYZ. Like there may be, if the person's open to it, some options to be explored.
Yeah.
Right. That feel like a win-win, which, you know, that is something about relationships. It's like, if we're not asking each other to sacrifice, then we're invited to look for a win-win. We're invited to find something we can both live with. And
right.
Maybe that would be another thing to practice here.
Yeah. He, you know, obviously he's not going there for the town.
Right. Right.
I'm going to go visit this town that
right.
my daughter's in, but not see my daughter.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. Good point. Good point. But it may be that he doesn't want his wife to travel alone, or.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Going for the wife, not the daughter. If they don't
or maybe, or maybe she doesn't feel good about traveling alone.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's fun to make up stories.
It is. It really is fun. It is fun because we're looking at it from all different types of angles. We're just taking it from all the perspectives because anybody listening to this might be like, oh yeah, that happened to me, but it wasn't because of that. It was because of this, you know, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and it feels like an opportunity. Like you said, I love that she's being honest with herself, right, about what she wants. And it feels like an opportunity for her to celebrate that. Like, oh, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. You know, that's my latest mission, right? That is not a hell yes. So it's going to be a hell no. And to get light and playful about picking yourself instead of worrying so much about how it impacts others. Because only in our authentic honesty, right, that expression, can we be love informed. So only when we're being honest about what we really want can we play our part for the other person. And maybe dad needs a little rejection so he can do some healing and come back and say sorry for whatever, right? I don't know.
I didn't even know I upset you like that. I didn't know that this was happening because it's been a thing happening in your microcosm, in your own mind and awareness. But then there's always those things with that too, right? Like if I'm in conflict with somebody and it's mainly on my side of the gate and I'm taking the responsibility to heal myself in it,
right, because
it's not him anyway, right? Nothing out here anyway. It's all my own energy.
Right.
Okay. So if I'm on my side of the gate, then I don't want to bring him into my gate that has this resentment and hatred and anger. That's not loving him either.
Right. Love it.
So it's so interesting because I mean, I have not talked to people, not because they've necessarily done anything wrong where I could go, that's the thing you did wrong and you're bad and you're mean.
Right.
But I've just stopped talking to people if I knew I couldn't be loving around them. If I knew it was going to take me out.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only is the questioner protecting herself and doing self-love and self-care, but she's actually being loving to him by not bringing him into that space, like you said.
Yeah. It's kind of helping him to stay blameless and innocent in a way.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Because I don't know, you know, I mean, that's why I always warn people whenever they would write books and memoirs and stuff. And I would say, add in a caveat there somewhere that says, I'm still learning, I'm still developing, I'm still growing around this issue, and he or she could change in a way that will help me to understand. And I'm allowing them to change in my perception of them, because that's a big thing. No one's still the same. It kind of goes back to the guy that with the cheating and that kind of stuff. It's like, did you allow him to change? Did you allow him to grow and develop and make a new choice? And he chose you. He chose you.
Right.
You know, how incredibly brave was that too, to know that every day you could feel guilt and blame and shame about that particular incident, but you still chose to stay because you just knew you made a mistake in that moment, and you're willing to make a difference. So it's just so interesting, juicy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why we do this stuff, because it's just the human mind and all these complex emotions and filters, and not just this lifetime, but if you believe in past lives, every little bit of influence from back there, right? That's still somehow in our cell memory. And
and it comes up, and it's just coming up for healing, and we get to love each other, love each other in it.
Yeah, we can trust it. I think that's the other thing, is when we get to that place, you know, it's happening to me, it's happening through me, it's happening for me. When we can get to the for me, like, this is good, I know there's a gift in here somewhere, it gets more fun. We start
That's so good that you brought that in there, because like him insinuating or insisting himself into the thing, the father, that's happening for her. So she can either get really clear about her boundaries and learn to tell the truth, and notice that maybe the world doesn't fall apart because you're just acting on your desire. And that's okay.
When you pick you, the world doesn't stop spinning.
Yes, queen.
Reach it.
All right, well, that is that for the questions. Any closing thoughts or ideas, Susan Ray? And tell them all how they can get in touch with you.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I think I think my closing thought is just like, always look at what's in it for me, because we are subconsciously, we're looking at what's in it for me, right? So let's bring that forward and be intentional, deliberate about what's in it for us, so we can decide, right, if it's serving our happiness or not. And I'm at SusanRayLifeCoach@gmail.com. SusanRae is my last name. Lifecoach@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I'm Kyra Schaefer. Kyra-Schaefer.com is my website. Still relatively new, so I'm still like playing with it a little bit. But yeah, you can definitely go out there, and love to hear from you. Please comment, like, subscribe, do the things. Push the buttons.
Write your questions. Give us some questions from people that are connected to us. That'd be really fun.
Oh, that would be really fun. Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you have a beautiful day, and just, live the life you're meant to live and have fun with it. All right. Bye.